Liar. Everywhere. On netrootsradio.com. David Waldman. Kagro. In the morning. Now, here's David Waldman.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How you doing? Why does it sound like the volume is so low in my headphones? I'm not sure, but I think it should sound fine in your headphones, and that's really what it's all about. The rest of the show, I can't vouch for, and as a matter of fact, it sounds just as bad as last week, although I am assured that by the time you download it and listen to it, it makes almost no difference, so I might as well just stay out here and do this. All right, we've got another wonderful road show for you. We've put together an hour plus of new material just to keep you company. A lot of it is a report on what we've been doing on the road because it's been kind of crazy. So, hey, thanks for joining us today. Good morning, Spokane. That's where I am right now. I'm even here now as I'm recording this. I will be here when you hear this. I will be asleep when you hear this, but here I am on Pacific time for the first time in I don't know how long. And it's been interesting. We've had quite a time of it. It's still fun. We'll see whether we're dragging our asses and ready to give up anytime soon in the next week or so as we head on to Seattle later on and then down the West Coast and then back again. And it's just been spectacular. I think on Friday, we wouldn't have talked about this on the air yet, although I might have said something about it during our travelogue recording in the car on the way about having finally seen Aurora Borealis for the first time, something we've been chasing for a long time, but not chasing actively. We chase it by going outside in Virginia. That's not very good for viewing Aurora Borealis, but on occasion you have these really weird, crazy magnetic storms, and people are able to see them in our area when it's really heavy activity. Anyway, this time we came north, and it was North Dakota, and it's kind of hard not to be able to see it. If you can see it in the United States, you're going to be able to probably see it in North Dakota. We did. Fantastic, right outside of Teddy Roosevelt National Park, which we then toured the next day, and we saw horses and coyote and, I don't know, prairie dogs were all over the place. We saw pronghorn. We saw bison. We saw wild burros. We were attacked by a wild burro. We encouraged this attack, but that was
at Custer.
Oh, that was at Custer?
Yeah.
Well, are you sure?
Yes.
I am not sure, but okay. Oh yes, now I know why you're sure. Never mind that. Anyway, so this burro stuck his muzzle right into the window of our car, which I guess we should have prevented by having the car window closed, as opposed to saying, "Oh, cute, burros are coming to see." Like if it was the bison, we would have shut the windows. I don't know why we didn't shut the windows for the.
Because we were feeding them.
No, we weren't. Are you crazy? You know it's wrong and illegal or something, or it's not. It's illegal to feed the animals in a national park. And oh no! All right, we'll bleep that out. You've been listening to this show for too long. I can fix that. I can fix this whole thing. We did nothing wrong. I've just been. As a matter of fact, I'm going to make myself king of the national park. All right, we were in Custer State Park, where we don't know that it's not illegal to feed animals in Custer State Park, but we don't care because we're not in that state anymore, and the long arm of Johnny Law can't reach us outside of the Dakotas, as far as I know. Were we in the Dakotas at the time? We were. Okay. I may want to fix this part. Anyway, are you checking whether it's illegal to feed animals inside a state park?
AI says that it's a popular activity to feed them.
That is not only not an answer, but that is AI. But okay. Anyway, we were...
And then
what?
Carrots are most popular.
All right.
They also like apples. And some like celery.
We have been caught. No, we haven't. We're just the power of positive thinking. We did not do that. That is not a crime. If we did do it...
Do not feed any other animals in the park.
I see. All right. And not only is it not a crime, it's actually good. So, okay. So this donkey, burro, was fed. And I mean, right away, it was kind of obvious, like, oh, no. Well, they allow you to do it, I guess. Because the burros are pretty harmless. Like, don't do it with any other animal. Even the prairie dogs apparently have fleas, which carry bubonic plague. And apparently, according to our guide-along travel guide, can jump, not the prairie dogs, the fleas can jump 10 feet. So, you know, even if you're just really close to take a picture, I guess you can get bubonic plague from a prairie dog. Anyway, we didn't. And almost any other animal, we would have shut the windows. But the burros came up, and they basically extracted a toll. This was like the Strait of Hormuz for burros. And you couldn't get through unless, well, you could.
And the people behind us made the mistake of getting out to feed them. And the car door opened, and the burro was like inside the car. And they couldn't get it out. Okay. Well, that's problematic. I did not see that in the rearview mirror. I did hear you yelling about it, though. I was more concerned with the burro that had his head inside our car and wouldn't leave. And I thought, so your thought was, I can bop him on the nose with my sun visor. And he did, and unbothered. I think, though, the burro then thought, I'm being offered food, and just started gnawing on the sun visor. And then, oh, no. And, you know, we don't want to hit the burro. So, but anyway, so I think she did the window. She started to roll the window up. Like, you're going to choke the burro. Oh, no. So anyway, the burro got the message, sort of. And then what we really was, we chucked carrots out the window. And the burro saw the orange flash of the carrot and went to get it. And then we rolled up the window and left. And having learned our lesson about, I don't know how much longer afterwards, we saw a burro and a baby burro. And did the whole stupid thing all over again. So, there you go. It was a fun time. It was had by all. Every burro got something to eat from us. So that was nice. It was a very equitable outing. We are now in Spokane, which I checked on YouTube with that French guy who says he knows how to pronounce everything, even though he's got a heavy French accent. Just to be sure, because I started doubting myself whether we were in Spokane or Spokane, but it's Spokane, according to the French guy, and everybody else too. And I will tell you, and you will hear, I think, Spokane is chock full of motorcycles, and it's not even, there's no kind of rally going on. We were near Sturgis, by the way, when we were up in Deadwood, and we did not go, but the motorcycle rally wasn't on. But we've met so many motorcycle people on this trip, too. This is a very old person's trip, I guess, to take. We meet a lot of elderly folks here who are making their way around the country as well, which makes me think I may be more elderly than I think. But anyway, a lot of elderly motorcycle couples, groups of couples. It's a very, it's kind of a fantastic thing. So anyway, it's been real nice, seeing everybody. I'm probably more chatty with these travelers than just about anybody else. And I just typically don't do that. But Spokane, at least where we are in Spokane, and we're in city center and across the street from the convention center. And I guess if Netroots Nation ever comes to Spokane, it'll be here. And but this appears to be like motorcycle central here. Every 5 minutes, a really loud motorcycle goes right by this hotel, and it might just be the same guy going around and around in loops. And I'm not sure what's doing it. Our impression so far of Spokane is okay. You know what? Spokane? I like that word.
What's that?
You said gritty.
Gritty, yes. And that reminds me, and I mean that, that's pointedly, Spokane has a very PA feel to it, to me. Pennsylvania, PA. And anybody who's lived in, maybe been in both. I mean, we don't know yet. We have only been in a small part of the city, so we may be missing a real flash part of Spokane. There's definitely some gentrified, built up, developed nice parts, but it's got a Pittsburgh vibe in some places, maybe something of we're more familiar with Easton, Pennsylvania. Anyway, I find it interesting. It's kind of a gritty place. We'll see how it compares to Seattle and give you our impression of all that. But it's been pretty good so far. We had some nice Thai food for dinner, and we're just waiting for the motorcycles to come around and keep us up all night. It's pretty well placed. Also, very heavily tattooed city. The whole upper Midwest and Mountain West has been pretty tattooed. Seems to be the thing to do. A lot of coffee places, a lot of breweries. I think I expected that getting to Washington. I wasn't sure whether the coffee thing would be, concentrated in Seattle. Maybe it's worse in Seattle, but there's a couple billion coffee places, the little shacks. I guess people took over the old photo mats, those little tiny booths that were in the middle of a parking lot, and turned them into drive-through coffee places. There's literally 2 coffee places on every corner, and I don't know how they survive, and maybe most of them don't. And I don't know whether they really taught any of these guys about saturating the market and oversupplying the market in economics. But, I mean, either the whole place is nuts for coffee and breweries, or they got to be going in and out of business every... I don't know what the hook is, how you're supposed to stay open as a coffee shop. But I guess everybody's got a local and a favorite. And tattoo shop. And I think what happens is, I think they may go out drinking all night and then drink a bunch of coffee too, and then they can't fall asleep, and then the only thing that's open is tattoo parlors, and then they'll go get their necks tattooed. It's really something. We've seen a lot of, full arm, full leg, neck and shoulder tattoos. It's really been remarkable, and it's not that there's no tattooing where we are, it's just different there. So it's been interesting to see that as part of the culture, and I don't know if I've ever really noticed that before or heard anybody talk about it. Anyway, it's been quite exciting, and a lot of recording going on in the car. Still looking for a way to reduce the noise. The next challenge is to try to get this digital voice recorder that Scott had recommended. Oh, and because I happen to be in the hotel room, that means I can shout out to Scott and add all my fun sound effects, except I probably won't have much choice or much chance to do it. And now we got to fight the room air conditioning for just a minute. But we're going to be doing them. We're looking to get a hold of this digital voice recorder that he recommended that would filter our audio up front in the car. And now we got to work the logistics of how to get it, because none of the electronic stores carry it in store, just as they don't carry anything in store anymore. And now you got to order it ahead of time. And I'll tell you, well, you can get it fast 3 days from now, but I'm gone, So I've been trying to think about where will I be in 3 days and try to order it to that store. Or I also had the idea of possibly ordering it to an Amazon locker in a city I expect to be in shortly. I just, I'm a little nervous about the timing of that. What if, right? So anyway, we'll see whether I get whether we get a hold of one of those things or not, whether it makes any difference. We got a couple of stories recorded to share with you today. 2 thematic stories about the utter depravity of Donald Trump's cabinet, and a little more travel excitement about some of the places we saw in the Dakotas. And we'll wrap it up at that point. I have a good head start on a Tuesday program for you, or at least another program later this week. See if we can't finish that one up in the car and try our best to stay off the reruns. But at some point it may just happen. We got a couple of days of guide along coming up for a long stretch as we head down the entire West Coast. So not sure how we'll handle that one. But let's get on to it now, because you've had enough of this and you're going to get more of it later. So let's get into the news for just a little bit, shall we? Here's something I thought we ought to add to the record. A April 17th piece in The Atlantic by Sarah Fitzpatrick. The FBI director is MIA. You don't want that. With this FBI director, maybe it's okay.
Kash Patel, the subheader says, has alarmed colleagues with episodes of excessive drinking and unexplained absences. On Friday, April 10th, as FBI Director Kash Patel was preparing to leave work for the weekend, or maybe forever, he struggled to log into an internal computer system. He quickly became convinced that he had been locked out, and he panicked, frantically calling aides and allies to announce, I wouldn't announce it, I would question, to announce that he had been fired by the White House. According to 9 people familiar with his outreach, 2 of these people described his behavior as a freak-out. It's not a bad conclusion, it's just, I wouldn't announce it to anybody until I was sure what the answer actually was. Patel oversees an agency that employs roughly 38,000 people, including many who are trained to investigate and verify information that can be presented under oath in a court of law. News of his emotional outburst ricocheted through the bureau, prompting chatter among officials and, in some corners of the building, expressions of relief. I could see that. The White House fielded calls from the bureau and from members of Congress. I don't know how many, I thought it said 5, but from members of Congress asking who was now in charge at the FBI. And this is not at all impossible or out of keeping with the way the Trump administration does things. These guys are not crazy. I would say Kash Patel is actually probably crazy. But as they point out, you're supposed to be kind of in the business of, that's not a detective agency per se, but yeah, you're supposed to be finding out what happened and verifying your information. Well, it turned out the answer was still Patel as to who's in charge there. He had not been fired. The access problem, 2 people familiar with the matter said, appears to have been a technical error, and it was quickly resolved. It was all ultimately bullshit, one FBI official told me. And really, it's been ultimately bullshit since they made him the director of the FBI. But Patel, according to multiple current officials, as well as former officials who have stayed close to him, is deeply concerned that his job is in jeopardy. He has good reasons to think so, including some having to do with what witnesses described to me as bouts of excessive drinking. I've never really had a bout of excessive drinking. I find myself very easily able to drink excessively. No one fights me about it. There's no bout involved, but I get your point. Anyway, my colleague Ashley Parker and I reported earlier this month that Patel was among the officials expected to be fired after Attorney General Pam Bondi's ouster on April 2nd. One of the stories I'll have to pick up and get to later is, I guess, now that I'm reading this on Fridays, this is fresh news here. But I also saw today that, I guess today was the day, either today or maybe it was yesterday, but I saw members of Congress saying, well, Pam Bondi has officially gone MIA herself and failed to show up to honor her subpoena to appeal to testify before the House Committee of Jurisdiction, asking questions about the Epstein files and how she handled them or mishandled them. So, anyway, it's lots of MIA today. Anyway, so I guess everybody thought he was going to get fired at the same time as Pam Bondi back on April 2nd. We're all just waiting for the word that Patel is officially out of the job, an FBI official told me this week. And a former official told my colleague, Jonathan Lemire, that Patel was, quote, rightly paranoid, unquote. Senior members of the Trump administration are already discussing who might replace him. Janine Pirro. Yes. According to administration officials and 2 people close to the White House who were familiar with the conversations. In response to a detailed list of 19 questions, the White House spokesperson, Caroline Leavitt, told me in a statement that under Donald Trump and Patel, quote, crime across the country has plummeted to the lowest level in more than 100 years, and many high-profile criminals have been put behind bars. Director Patel remains a critical player on the administration's law and order team. That's the end of the quote. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche told me in a statement, Patel has accomplished more in 14 months than the previous administration did in 4 years.
Anonymously sourced hit pieces do not constitute journalism. The FBI responded with a statement attributed to Patel. Print it. All false. I'll see you in court. Bring your checkbook. That does sound like Patel. The IT lockout episode is emblematic of Patel's tumultuous tenure as director of the FBI. He is erratic, suspicious of others, and prone to jumping to conclusions before he has necessary evidence. According to the more than 24 people I interviewed about Patel's conduct, including current and former FBI officials, staff at law enforcement and intelligence agencies, hospitality industry workers. That's not usually an interview about the FBI director. Members of Congress, political operatives, lobbyists, and former advisors. Speaking on the condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive information in private conversations, they described Patel's tenure as a management failure and his personal behavior as a national security vulnerability. They said that the problems with his conduct go well beyond what has been previously known and include both conspicuous inebriation and unexplained absences. His behavior has often alarmed officials at the FBI and the Department of Justice, even as he won support from the White House for his eager participation in Trump's effort to turn federal law enforcement against the president's perceived political enemies. I do wonder whether it might be just the enormous pressure, and I guess if he has anything like a normally functioning brain, he's got to be scared out of his mind, and everybody's going to figure out that he's a fraud in way over his head, and maybe he's just drinking to hide from that. But it also could be he was always just kind of a frat bro drinking guy, and I guess somehow he didn't acquire the same reputation that Pete Hegseth did, such that Pete Hegseth had to swear to everybody that I'm going to quit drinking in order to become defense secretary, and Kash Patel didn't have to do that. So, hell with it, I'll just keep drinking. And he's just sort of, trying to live his best life, which is actually most people's worst life, but live his best life and fly around on the jet and drink as much as possible and go to hockey games before he gets fired. Several officials told me that Patel's drinking has been a recurring source of concern across the government. They said that he is known to drink to the point of obvious intoxication, in many cases at the private club Ned's in Washington, D.C., while in the presence of White House and other administration staff. He's also known to drink to excess at the Poodle Room in Las Vegas. Can we go there? All right. Where he frequently spends part of his weekends. I guess we could go and see if we could spot him. It's going to be a while till we're in Las Vegas. And also, I think I have better things to do. Like nothing. Anyway, early in his tenure, meetings and briefings had to be rescheduled for later in the day as a result of his alcohol-fueled nights. 6 current and former officials and others familiar with Patel's schedule told me. On multiple occasions in the past year, members of his security detail had difficulty waking Patel because he was seemingly intoxicated, according to information supplied by two Justice Department and White House officials. Wow. So there's your 3 a.m. call ad, right? I don't think anybody ever suspected that you wouldn't get answered on your 3 a.m. emergency call because the recipient was intoxicated. Too old, I think, was what they were trying to get at, but intoxicated? No. A request for breaching equipment, normally used by SWAT and hostage rescue teams to quickly gain entry into buildings, was made last year because Patel had been unreachable behind locked doors, according to multiple people familiar with the request. Wow. So, would imagine that. I guess they was sort of like, I don't even know if he's okay. Maybe he's been kidnapped. Maybe he's been killed. But or maybe it's, oh my God, he's so drunk we have to send a SWAT team to break in and see if he's drowning in his own vomit. Some of Patel's colleagues at the FBI worry that his personal behavior has become a threat to public safety. An FBI director is expected to be available and focused on his job. I mean, a cashier at Target is expected to not do this. Well, an FBI director is expected to be available and focused on his job, especially when the nation is at war with a state sponsor of terrorism. Yeah, good point. Current and former officials told me that they have long worried about what would happen in the event of a domestic terrorist attack while Patel is in office. And he's flammable. That's their real worry. And they said that their apprehension has increased significantly in the weeks since Trump launched his military campaign against Iran. That's what keeps me up at night, one official said. Patel arrived at the FBI in early 2025 as a deeply polarizing figure. He had risen from being a public defender in Miami to a congressional aide and ultimately a national security official during the first Trump administration. During Patel's confirmation to be the FBI director, the Republican chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Chuck Grassley, expressed optimism that Trump's nominee would implement much-needed reforms. He's the right change agent for the FBI, the senator said. I'm wrong about that. Adding that the Bureau was in need of a big shake-up, like a martini. Under questioning from skeptical Democrats, Patel vowed that, quote, there will be no retributive actions. All right, well, that's false, obviously, and that he was not aware of any plans to punish FBI staff who had been part of investigations into Trump. That was a lie as well. Democrats were not the only ones who were leery of Patel, who had a record of embracing far-fetched conspiracy theories, including the notion that the FBI and its informants had helped instigate the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol to sabotage the MAGA movement. Several Republicans wavered on whether to back it, but a pressure campaign by the White House and its allies ultimately prevailed, and Patel was confirmed by a vote of 51 to 49. Wow. Rousing vote of confidence. Inside the FBI, which had been wounded by a number of scandals, many hoped that Patel could give the Bureau a fresh start. But even many of those who had been enthusiastic about his arrival have since been disappointed. Officials said that Patel has been an irregular presence at the FBI headquarters and the field offices, and that he has compounded the agency's existing bureaucratic bottlenecks. Several current and former officials told me that Patel is often away or unreachable, delaying time-sensitive decisions needed to advance investigations. On several occasions, an official told me Patel's delays resulted in normally unflappable agents, quote, losing their shit. That's a quote. You can't blame me. Patel has also earned a reputation for acting impulsively during high-stakes investigations. He announced triumphantly on social media, for instance, that the FBI had, quote, detained a person of interest in the Brown University shooting in December. That person was soon released while agents continued to hunt for the killer. Still, Patel has his fans. The president has been pleased by Patel's efforts to purge agents who worked on January 6th cases and other probes into Trump. That's actually, of course, the very thing that we just were told. He promised senators during his confirmation hearing that, well, he said he had no knowledge of plans to do so. I think that is actually a lie as well, but it's harder to prove that he didn't know about any plans. But I believe he actually formulated those plans. So I think it is a lie twice over. The president has also indicated that he is relatively unbothered by grumblings about Patel from within the FBI, according to White House and other administration officials. That's not surprising. Patel views many of the Bureau's veterans as anti-Trump deep state agents who have worked against him and his followers, but Patel has, on occasion, earned the president's ire. Trump has complained that the FBI director has seemed unprepared for TV appearances, and that some high-profile investigations that he directed Patel to pursue have not moved quickly enough. These include inquiries into former Biden administration officials and other political opponents. And again, that too, one of the very things that he promised were not going to happen during his confirmation hearing. Patel's spotty attendance at the office and the eagerness with which he's embraced the perks and travel that come with the job have also been sources of concern at the White House. Some in the West Wing have followed the headlines about Patel's use of the FBI jet for personal matters, as well as the whispers about his love of partying, and said that they fear that Trump would react badly were he to focus on those storylines. DOJ's ethics handbook states that an employee is prohibited from habitually using alcohol or other intoxicants to excess. The department's inspector general has warned that off-duty alcohol consumption can not only impair employees' judgment, it can also make them vulnerable to exploitation or coercion by foreign adversaries. Patel's drinking is no secret. While on official travel to Italy in February, he was filmed chugging beer with the U.S. men's Olympic hockey team following their gold medal victory. The incident prompted the president, who does not drink and whose brother died following a long struggle with alcoholism, to call the FBI director to convey his unhappiness, according to two officials familiar with the call. That's funny because I think Patel called him from the locker room to try to put him on speakerphone to have him congratulate the team, but to have to do it from his phone, of course, and then he later gets called and reprimanded. But officials told me that Patel's alcohol use goes far beyond the occasional beer. FBI officials and others in the administration have privately questioned whether alcohol played a role in the instances in which he shared inaccurate information about active law enforcement investigations, including following the murder of Charlie Kirk. Many of the people who spoke with me said that they have been afraid to reveal their concerns about Patel publicly or through traditional whistleblower channels because he's been aggressive in cracking down on anyone he deems insufficiently loyal. At Patel's direction, FBI employees are polygraphed in an effort to identify leakers. One former official told me that Bureau employees have been asked in these sessions for opinions about Patel's perceived, quote, enemies, as well as whether they have ever said anything disparaging about the director or the president. Patel has held on to his job in part because of his commitment to using the federal government to target political or personal adversaries of the president. Again, a third time in which we're told he actually has made one of his hallmarks doing the things that he promised specifically to the Senate interrogators that he would not be doing or that he had no plans to do. In his 2023 book, Government Gangsters, Patel designated a list of government officials past and present that he alleged were corrupt or disloyal. So as far as having no plans for that or knowing of no plans, like I said, the plans were his own. He had them. He wrote a book about them. I don't know how they let him get away with it, but I guess that's how he got a 51-49 vote. In an interview that year, that being 2023, on Steve Bannon's podcast, Patel said that he planned to, quote, come after members of the media for their 2020 election coverage with criminal or civil charges. Patel has led a purge of people who he believes are anti-Trump conspirators or enemies within the FBI. This has included firing people, opening internal investigations, and pressuring agents to quit when they pushed back or were perceived to have pushed back against Patel's demands or questioned their legality. Some at the FBI are concerned that Patel's behavior has left the country more vulnerable. One former senior intelligence official told me that there is a lack of experience at FBI headquarters and that the turnover rate is high in field offices because of both voluntary departures and Patel-ordered purges. The result is an FBI workforce being asked to accomplish more with fewer resources and with less direction from the top. The instinctive level of muscle memory or discernment that is necessary to identify and counter a terror attack is missing, the former official said. A current official described people inside the Bureau feeling besieged and disillusioned or even angry. Days before the United States launched its war with Iran, Patel fired members of a counterintelligence squad that was devoted in part to Iran. The director said in testimony before Congress that the agents had been let go because their work investigating Trump's handling of classified documents had placed them in violation of the Bureau's ethics rules. But multiple officials told me that they were concerned that the firings had been rushed and would leave the U.S. short-handed at a crucial moment. Patel has publicly proclaimed that the FBI needs to demonstrate that it is, quote, fierce, and officials I spoke with said that he is fixated on that image in private as well. He recently expressed frustration with the look of FBI merchandise, complaining that it isn't intimidating enough. Officials have grown accustomed to such behavior, and they've learned to roll their eyes at it, but they said that the absurdity masks real concerns with what Patel's leadership has meant for an institution that the country relies on for national security and the safety of its citizens. Part of me is glad he's wasting his time on bullshit, because it's less dangerous for the rule of law, for the American public, one official told me, but it also means we don't have a real functioning FBI director. That's it. We made it to the end of that one. It's a little rough to do on the road, but, you've become used to that by now. Well, that's a real concern, especially, as I said, in the middle of a war with a country that is a state sponsor of terrorism, and it would like nothing more, for instance, to convince people that it is determined to strike within the United States. Although, of course, having found that out previously, the United States, Republican officials in the United States decided not to take that one seriously either. So, I don't know that their record on this has been any better than Kash Patel's, but at least they, I think, weren't drinking so heavily on the job. Well, he struck me as something of an idiot for a long time, and it is interesting, as they were recounting his previous experience, they did list all the things that would you could, if you squinted at them just right, might make you think he was suited for a job in government at some higher level. But they didn't mention, what they didn't mention was that he started out as a prosecutor in Miami, became a congressional aide, and then ultimately a national security administration employee of some kind in the Trump administration when they were looking for people who were into conspiracy theories. And then when Trump was out, that he became, like every other right-wing nut with no particular job in a non-existent Trump administration, a conspiracy theorist, a professional conspiracy theorist, and disseminating his garbage through podcasts, much like me, but worse, because, of course, none of it turned out to be true. But he was just all about currying favor with Trump in the hopes that he would get a high-ranking job next time around. Now he's got it, and the nation's security and yours depend on it, and he's drunk the whole time. We have departed from our stay in Deadwood, South Dakota, and by the way, emerging from a very nice night at the Landmark Hotel and Casino, and some other casino as well. More casinos. There was so much casino. It was a hotel and casino as well. Anyway, as we departed, I think we were already aware that this had happened, but it snowed during the night. So just, by way of travel log commentary, I arrived in Deadwood in shorts, and in the morning I had to get the boots and pair of pants and as many coats as I could find, and out to brush snow off the car. There's a good 4 inches of snow on the car still, and we were under-equipped, let's say, in the snow brush category. There's an emergency one in the back, like, that folds out to about, maybe a foot long, perhaps, end to end. So, it was enough to do the job, but it took quite a while, and, anyway, it was really something. I wasn't expecting that much snow work. We stopped to get an emergency pair of snow boots for our field producer / driver, and that didn't really work out all that well, as it turns out. But we were on our way from there to Devil's Tower, which is a fantastic natural site that I don't know what else to say about it, but other than it's kind of an amazing thing. You will all have, all of those of you over, let's say 35, will have seen it in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, perhaps many, many times. There's a campground right outside of the park, apparently, that they play the movie nightly for everyone. So that it wasn't a huge theme, I don't think, except that one of the gift shops, they had a couple of alien-themed things. But really amazing to see for the first time in real life. There should be, somebody needs to open a mashed potato only restaurant there. That would be cool. Again, if you've seen the movie, you know what we're talking about. The place itself is amazing, geologically amazing. We learned some things along the way, like, for instance, that the name Devil's Tower probably comes from a bad translation, as most things do. Most place names are bad translations of Native American names for places. And this one was no exception, but also a very interesting Native American spiritual site. Stories about attempts to climb the thing, which have been real interesting. It's really kind of an amazing thing to see up close and in person. And it was really nice, actually, to see it. The day improved weather-wise as time went on. The snow was mostly done, although it snowed on us a little bit on the way there, which really gave a great look to the place. And the various other forests and natural areas that we drove through on the way to get there. There's still a bit of snow on the ground there, but in the morning there was a considerable amount of snow in the pine trees, but not bitterly cold, so very nice. And let's see, other things about the Devil's Tower area. Oh, I don't know. Like I said, very just sort of amazing to see. I have to register a complaint about birds in the area. Apparently, the habit of the birds is to hide by the roadside on these very long, straight stretches over the flat lands, and then fly away manically as your car approaches. And many times, apparently without any idea which direction is away from the car versus toward the car. So if you're panicking and you don't know which direction to panic and fly in, maybe just stay put. It's a strange phenomenon. I don't know that I've seen it elsewhere. It must be happening all over the place, but maybe it's just not so obvious. Maybe there are other things to look at besides the side of the road in other parts of the country. But here, it's cows, grass, and birds that go crazy and fly away. The birding aspect of things has been real interesting, too. I'd love to be able to figure out what these little things are, but we're moving too fast. You think you know? You're going to turn around. A goofy bird. We're going to turn around for a weird-looking bird. In South Dakota, we're going to try and turn this one around right in the middle of the road, although I see we're pretty close to a rise. So if there's no Monday show, we didn't do this right. All right. Well, we managed to successfully turn around and then turn around again, but that's all. That's the sum total of the successes there. As with most such encounters, the bird you're looking for is long gone by the time you get your car turned around and then turned around again and then in position. So it didn't work out. It was a hawk. It was probably the greatest hawk ever observed, but I don't know what kind because I didn't actually observe it. So anyway, we're on our way to the enchanted forest, an enchanted highway, enchanted at something. And what are these floppy things? It's crazy birds, and just you can't outrun a car. I mean, you can't run away out in front of the car in the same direction. They really don't seem to understand this. I'm surprised I don't see more dead ones along the road. It's just that the road is pretty empty. Anyway, so we're going to I love to say enchanted forest, and again, but this is the enchanted highway. What enchants this highway? I don't know. But it is on the way to the Teddy Roosevelt National Forest, which is where we're going to stay tonight. And that is in North Dakota. North Dakota. It's a totally different Dakota. There are no Christy gnomes in this one. This is the one where, what's his name? Greg Burgum is from. Or did that just say, welcome to... Thank you. It was Greg... It was right. Is that right? Greg... Was his name Greg Burgum? And was he the governor of North Dakota? And he's in the cabinet. And it didn't really occur to me that the governor of North Dakota is in the cabinet. The governor of South Dakota is in the cabinet. I wonder if that has ever happened before. It's like an amazing thing when you get a Dakotan in the cabinet at all, because there's about 15 people here combined. This is, I think, South Dakota is what I think we heard this the other day, the 5th smallest population. North Dakota is smaller than that. I don't know which number it is. Wyoming is the smallest population of all, I believe.
Those would be the 3 states we were in.
And we were in Wyoming for Devil's Tower, and so I mean the three of the 5 least populated states were on the agenda for today, and I don't know. I don't think we have any Wyomingites in the cabinet. I don't know. That's very surprising to have seen that. But again, it's just sort of, I guess, par for the course for the Trump administration, because people who have to be politically sophisticated in some way in order to reach high enough level of office that they would be noticed and tapped for a president's cabinet generally are unavailable to Donald Trump, because only cuckoo birds would have any interest in cultivating a close relationship to Donald Trump. And I guess that's kind of what you get in the Dakotas for the time being. There just aren't enough people here to talk to one another to get their heads screwed on right and not elect these kooks to high government office in their states. But what can I tell you? If a couple 100,000 people moved west, there would be enough in some of these states to change the outcome of these elections. I just don't know what I would have you do here. Except for where we just came from. You could work in or run a casino. Open your own casino. Some of these places are like holes in the wall. Donald Trump, true, bankrupted several casinos, but to my understanding, that's actually quite difficult to do. You probably won't go bankrupt the same way. All right. What is on the Enchanted Highway? What makes it enchanted? Is it just the scenery? No, it's more.
It's a bunch of metal sculptures over the course of about a half an hour drive from some guy who created these big, giant sculptures.
That's a thing you could do in the Dakotas. There's plenty of room for it. That's pretty cool. There's a lot of sculpture going on here. Some of it is rather more controversial than others, of course, like Mount Rushmore, for instance. That's highly controversial sculpture. But where were we? In Sioux Falls, right, where somebody had taken it upon themselves to put, to sculpt, well, it's I guess so, cast statues of all the presidents. And they're scattered about town. I don't know if there's a Donald Trump one. What are we reading? Oh, it's Guide Along. Is that the name of this? So, here's something for you. If you're traveling, I would say anywhere. And is it just guidealong.com or something like that? I'm sure. Anyway, it's an app for the phone that is, in fact, not a self-guided tour because you're guided by someone else entirely. But this very affable gentleman who narrates these things and does a great job with it, and they're full of great information. And it's, geolocates you using your phone, and as you approach certain sites, it triggers the phone to play a certain recording and tell you something about what's coming up. And they very wisely do it, ahead of time, and they start, 5 minutes before you arrive at the site and tell you something interesting about it. And then he says, I'll tell you where to turn or look for the parking lot. It's on your left. And if it doesn't have any parking, don't worry, there's another one. And this is the last bathroom for 200 miles, all the good stuff. But all these fantastic stories about it. We had used it during a trip a couple of years ago in Yellowstone National Park. And it's been invaluable out here in the Dakotas. And is there one for the Enchanted Highway? No. So it's not everywhere, but it's really been fantastic. And so we should be plugging them. I guarantee that if you're taking a trip, if you're doing a car trip anywhere, particularly the national parks and similar areas, check them out. Guide Along, and we imagine guidealong.com. And I think so, but you can find it in your app store, right? Guide Along and download it, and you can buy different packages for where you're going. And sometimes package deals 2-3 areas. You're driving across this whole country like an idiot at the peak of gas prices. You can find there's savings to be had by buying several guide-along packages as well. So, all right. So we're off to the Enchanted Highway, where we'll see all this. Oh, right. Oh, what I meant to say, the reason I got on the guide-along at all was that they told us the story about the guy who did all these statues of the presidents, and I guess what his, I guess the criterion, if there is one. I mean, I guess if you're president, boom, you get a statue, basically. But it was put oddly. He says he had completed statues of every president of the United States who had completed his term in office, which could be interpreted in a number of ways, but I think was meant to be, without saying anything and then annoying or aggravating certain customers of Guide Along, that there was no Trump statue yet. And there may never be. Who knows? The guy may quit rather than make a Trump statue. I don't know. But I think that was meant to mean that there was no Trump statue. Although, as you pointed out, Trump has completed a term in office. Is that enough? And also, by the way, when you said it like, well, I made a sculpture of every president who completed his term of office. Well, like, or assassinated presidents, that seems unfair to exclude them from it. I think they completed their term of office. I'm sure they're there. But I think, the only fair, normal interpretation is there's no Trump one, so don't go looking for it, either to piss on it or celebrate it or take pictures of you caressing its crotch like Marjorie Taylor Greene used to do. None of that. And you're wasting your time if you're driving around looking for Trump. Honestly, anywhere. With statue, in person, anything. Huge waste of time. Anyway, all of my strongest recommendation for Guide Along. They're politically sensitive, I guess. That's nice.
All right, we've made it through. Let's see, I got to turn down something here.
Just something.
What?
I don't know what. I don't think it was a fox, but it was like fox-sized.
Fox-sized. All right, fox-sized, sure.
Badger-sized.
Badger-sized. All right.
Badgers out here?
I don't know. That's Wisconsin. All right, we have made it through the Enchanted Highway, over the Enchanted Highway, through an enchanted forest. No forest at all. I just keep wanting to say that because why is that? Enchanted forest is a fairy tale thing. Enchanted neighborhood is Winnie the Pooh. And Enchanted Highway is not even, well, I guess it's technically not a highway. It's like 101.5 street. It was really weird. I don't know, 102nd and a half street is where it started at. Well, that's where it ended up. We did it backwards, for one thing. Highway Enchanted, essentially. So all the sculptures were kind of facing the other way, but that's fine. This was the way that we could do it and be headed in the right direction to get to our hotel, which is in Medora. Uh-oh. I don't know what Medona is. All right, Medora, North Dakota. Anyway, the Enchanted Highway, a delightful side trip, and it's highway, and it's North Dakota. I mean, like I said, it's not interstate, but it's the North Dakota road. Everything in North Dakota appears to be highway, or at least can be driven as though it were highway, is what it seems. So, what made it enchanted is a series of metal sculptures spread out over about 30 miles that I would imagine is all designed to draw you off the highway and down this other road to their hotel, which I'm sure also is delightful, but like I said, too late, we're going in the other direction. So it was very nice, very interesting. We hit it at about 8 o'clock, so it was getting dark. So it was sort of a race against time to make it there.
to see every one of the sculptures in the daylight. We didn't do it. We didn't make it. We saw the last sculpture in darkness. But it was okay. It was fun. And by the way, if you're ever doing it, I would recommend, if you're pressed for time because of daylight, do it backwards. Start at the end and go in the other direction, because they're very heavily concentrated toward the end. And then there are fewer and further between at the beginning, when you still have patience for this stuff, I guess. Anyway, very nice. There was, let's see, the world's largest tin family was the last / for us first sculpture. And I don't know how large you have to go to be the world's largest tin family. It wasn't, I thought it might be, maybe it's Tin Woodsman got married and had a family, and they're made of tin. They're lovely people, I'm sure, a farmer and family. An interesting mix of abstract and straight super literal. The world's largest tin family is straight super literal folk art. You know, big giant barrel chested people with whatever. Anyway, painted to look like a farm family. Versus there was also the very first one, geese in flight. Deer crossing was another. And I mean, the grasshopper in the field. That was sort of more literal, I thought. It was a giant grasshopper in the field. But like, you know, I was going to say that the deer and the geese in flight were not abstract, but they were a little more free form. There, you know, the deer, it was very big pieces of metal, but there were holes, you know, through the deer. Like, there's artistic license. Deer don't actually have these kinds of holes in them all over the place. But, you know, it was a more artistic rendering. But so interesting. I'd be interested to know whether the same person did them all or what. But we just wanted to report to you that we did go down the Enchanted Highway. That looked like a very intriguing, very lit up, maybe fast food restaurant. Oh, another problem. We haven't eaten. So we got some food in the car. We'll be fine. It's like almost 9 o'clock local time. We are in mountain time, mountain daylight time. Although, right, we're past the daylight. Also, as we were approaching the Enchanted Highway, we had one of our first lessons of traveling in the West here. I guess we're getting toward the West, right? And that is, we were on our way up, looking for the Enchanted Highway, which we were going to drive a 30-mile stretch of it, and then we know we have about 45 minutes from the end of the Enchanted Highway, beginning of the Enchanted Highway, to our hotel. 110 miles worth of gas in the tank. Not enough. So, get gas before too long, right? Well, tough luck. You want to get gas where we were. This is the first time I've ever opened up the Google Maps app and say, all right, where's the nearest gas? And first of all, the nearest gas is 45 minutes away, and Google Maps says closed. All the gas stations are closed. I don't run into closed gas stations, but thankfully you figured out that it was more likely that we were talking about, the convenience store that's attached to it is closed. The gas pumps are going to be open. They're a credit card anyway. Go ahead. But the first one we hit wasn't the gas station at all, but was an auto repair place. I don't know why it came up, but that was fine because it was on the way to the next one anyway. But it took us, 35 minutes.
Seen them all in the daylight if we didn't have to get gas.
Oh, yes, right. If it hadn't been for, the need for gas, well, which, as it turns out, there was a gas station at the beginning or the end of the thing, but, that we didn't know. Anyway, it was really something, and, you can very easily find yourself in real trouble, unless, of course, you have an electric vehicle, which would have been a great idea to purchase at the beginning of this thing, which would have been an awesome idea to purchase if it was for the purpose of doing a road trip for the show, and therefore a tax deduction. But I have a feeling they wouldn't let you get away with that. Anyway, it probably would have been a great time to have an electric vehicle. We were parked next to somebody who bought an electric vehicle from Virginia at Devil's Tower today. Not that I said anything about it either, but it was very, it must be nice. Although I would be very worried about where the hell can we charge this thing in the middle of North Dakota. So any of you live in this upper Midwest, Mountain West area and face that problem with an electric vehicle, I would be interested to know about it. Anybody been to the Enchanted Highway? I would be interested to know about it. Anybody think we're crazy for going on the Enchanted Highway? I would be interested to know about it. My fervent hope is that you will be interested to know about this, and that's the real challenge. We'll find out next week. A companion story to the Kash Patel news. Labor Department investigates texts among secretaries, family, and staff. Although this New York Times article is talking about Labor Secretary Lori Chavez-DeRemer, who we've definitely discussed before, and there's been stories about her weird behavior before that I know we've read on the air. This is a more recent piece, April 15th, middle of last week, but I thought I would put it on record because it's just another example of the very strange, weird, often perverted, and just, I don't know, certainly unsocialized for normal people, people that were harboring in the cabinet, for God's sake. This is very strange. So, subheader tells us that Secretary Lori Chavez-DeRemer asked staff members to bring wine to her hotel room, which by itself is not the weirdest thing I ever heard of, and to keep in touch with her husband and father. Now, the last time we read all this, I don't think the father was mentioned, but it did mention that her husband has been banned from the Labor Department building. Now, she's the secretary, so I'm just sort of curious what kind of behavior do you have to engage in to be banned as the secretary's spouse? And the answer is probably what you might see on a Tuesday at Pervalago. Anyway, like I was just saying, in terms of bringing wine to your hotel room, you're on travel. I could see them saying, is there anything else we can get you to make sure you're comfortable, Madam Secretary? You know what? It's been a long day. I'd like to see, how about a bottle of wine upstairs? Can you get room service to put one there so that when we get there, I can just relax and unwind? I might say, why don't you sit down and do some reading of the briefing for the whatever the hell we're traveling here for? But all right, wine, sure. But of course, would it be normal? No, not at all. Rebecca Davis O'Brien wrote the piece. Again, it's April 15th in the New York Times. Labor Secretary Lori Chavez-DeRemer and her top aides and family members routinely sent personal messages and requests to young staff members that are now under review by the department's Inspector General. Ms. Chavez-DeRemer and her former Deputy Chief of Staff sent texts asking employees to bring wine to them during trips for the department. Sometimes the request came in the middle of the workday. That is odd, but again, I suppose if it's 3 o'clock, we're going to be arriving at wherever we're going, and we're going to get to the hotel at 7. You know what? Can you make sure they have some wine up there when I get there? Yeah, sure. The request is made at 3 o'clock. The wine doesn't show until 7. That I can understand. If it's, hey, I'm meeting the president at 2 p.m. today. Can you bring me some wine right now? It's 1:30. Right. I'd be against that. Anyway, Ms. Chavez-DeRemer's husband exchanged text messages with young female staff members. Like, why is she not mad about that at all? I'm not sure. As did her father, which there too, I guess I would say there needs to be some lines drawn in the Chavez-DeRemer household. Some of the young women were instructed by Ms. Chavez-DeRemer and the former Deputy Chief of Staff to, quote, pay attention to the men, according to people familiar with the investigation. I suppose if I'm stretching to come up with any sort of explanation to get her off the hook with this, I guess I could say, my husband and my father, they're really into things at the Labor Department, whatever. They're just really excited for my having this position. They have all kinds of ideas. Don't do any of them, but don't insult them. My dad in particular are going to get all upset if you don't pay attention to him. Just humor him. Like that would be something. But no, that's not it. The text messages have been reviewed by the New York Times. The messages were gathered as part of a months-long investigation into Ms. Chavez-DeRemer's leadership of the department, which began with a complaint filed to the Inspector General's office claiming widespread misconduct. The inquiry has revealed deep frustration in the department with Ms. Chavez-DeRemer, who took office in March of 2025. Staff members across the political spectrum have described her as disconnected from the work of the department. The internal investigation is in its final stages. 4 people have been forced out of their jobs, including Ms. Chavez-DeRemer's former chief of staff and deputy chief of staff, her director of advance, and a member of the secretary's security detail with whom she was accused of having an affair. Things are really wild at the Chavez-DeRemers. Man. 3 staff members have filed civil rights complaints against her in the department, describing a hostile work environment. Sounds like a big party to me, but, maybe you don't want to participate. In an April 2025 exchange provided to investigators, Ms. Chavez-DeRemer's father, Richard Chavez, wrote to a young female staff member. Now, how old is she? She's in her 40s, maybe? Her father, then perhaps 60s, 70s, depending. I'm curious. So he writes to a young female staff member, but he writes in, texter language. Hearing you are in town, U/R, the letters. Hearing you are in town. Wishing you, Y-O-U, for some reason, would let me know. I could have made some excuses to get out and show you around. Please keep this private. I mean, again, if he didn't put that last bit on there, I'd be like, oh, it's just my dad wants to show you the local fireman's museum. Whatever. He wants to take you to the historical marker in town because, his buddies' names are on it from Vietnam. I don't know. Something like that. Maybe. Please keep this private. Tells me, no. The staff member responded. Remember, she's been instructed, pay attention to them. Will do. No need to worry. Which, I don't even know. That's not even a really good response. Hearing you're in town. Wishing you would let me know. Will do. No need to worry. Will do what? You're going to let me know? I already know. I was wishing you would have let me know before. All right. She apologized for not reaching out and said she would be back in Oregon soon. Ms. Chavez-DeRemer's family is based in Oregon, and she served 1 term in the House for the state's 5th congressional district. That's also something worth noting. I don't think it's necessary. Normally, how many terms in Congress do you have to serve to know don't drink wine during the day, don't let your father molest the staff, right? 1, 0 would be fine. I'm just pointing out, this is not somebody who should be in the cabinet at all. And I have no idea how Trump came to pick her. Except now I do. She's wild. And she'll bring a swinging family with her down to Pervalago. It's the only explanation. A 1-termer from Oregon who's anti-labor, almost assuredly. I mean, that was going to be the case with any Trump labor secretary, but I think that might be it. She's just, he says she's a little minx, this one. And her husband, and her father, too. Ivanka, maybe you want to pay attention to her father. Mr. Chavez, I think the senior, has not been accused of wrongdoing. By someone else, because I accuse him of wrongdoing. Representatives for Ms. Chavez-DeRemer and her husband did not immediately provide comment. Meanwhile, as I said before, I believe her husband has been accused of misconduct. So one of the Mr. Chavez, I guess he's the Mr. DeRemer. Got it. All right. So it's not even the senior thing. A few weeks later, the same staff member messaged Ms. Chavez-DeRemer's husband, Dr. Dr. Sean DeRemer, and apologized for not being in touch. I have been having so much fun traveling with LCD, that is Lori Chavez-DeRemer, not Liquid Crystal Display, and being in the moment for everything, 2 exclamation points, and a smiley face. I'm sure that she dots her eyes with smileys. I promise from now on I'll check in. He responded, "You better. I was feeling forgotten." Like Chavez-DeRemer was serious about pay attention to these guys. "You better. I was feeling forgotten. I figured you were still in church, repenting after your exposure to the demon state of Oregon." What a perv. Dr. DeRemer, an anesthesiologist, access to roofies. Holy macaroni. Oh my God. Anyway, Dr. DeRemer, or Dr. DeRoofy, an anesthesiologist, was barred from the department headquarters this year after several women told the Inspector General's investigators that he was making unwanted advances at them. One of the women filed a report with Washington's Metropolitan Police Department, which opened a sexual assault investigation. We're not hearing much about this, are we? The department and the federal prosecutor's office later said they would not bring charges in the matter. Trump strikes again. Beep, beep, beep. Look out. That's the Trump's a pervert and so is everybody around him alarm. No wonder I hear it going off all the time. Sometimes we don't even know why it's beeping. The original complaint to the Inspector General accused Ms. Chavez-DeRemer and her aides of drinking on the job and keeping a stash of liquor at the office, according to the New York Post, which first reported the complaint in January. Now, in the 60s, of course, you kept the 50s, 60s, 40s, earlier, you kept the stash of liquor at the office all the time. But it's frowned upon today, particularly by, conservative Christian, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, in one text message, Ms. Chavez-DeRemer asked the staff member to bring rosé to her hotel room. Problematic right there, just because it's rosé. "Do they sell by the bottle?" she asked. The staff member responded that they did, but they were out of rosé. It's an interesting question, too. Do they sell by the bottle? Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I don't know. It's just, yeah, right. Like, can you bring a glass of wine to my hotel room? Don't spill any. Right, yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's normal to ask for a bottle. It doesn't make any sense, really. Although the question was, do they sell by the bottle or the glass? Well, they only sell by the glass. All right, 15 glasses then. Well, anyway, it's always a classy drinker who's like, "Should I order some wine?" "Yeah." "Should I order by the bottle?" "Yes." I mean, it's not like you can't have a glass of wine somewhere if you're at the bar or whatever, but the better wines, my guess, they're sold by the bottle. But, rosé on them, I think, pretty much puts you out of that category. There are, I'm surely, rosés that are fantastic, and there are rosé fans out there. There's nothing wrong with drinking cheap wine or the $2 Chuck bottles from Trader Joe's. Some of them are fantastic. I thought she was living her best life the way, what's his name was, Kash Patel. Oh, that reminds me. Yeah, I got to bring you an update about that. Anyway, I'll see if I remember that part. Ms. Chavez-DeRemer responded with another selection since they were out of rosé. "How about the Josh Sauvy B?" Is it a Sauvignon Blanc, I guess? How about it? Fine. The messages are undated, but a picture of the menu in the text message exchange suggests it is from a hotel bar in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, where Ms. Chavez-DeRemer went on an official visit last July. Just before 3 p.m. on Friday. I don't know why Monday. I guess I'm thinking about Monday, but just before 3 p.m. on Friday, September 5th, Ms. Chavez-DeRemer's deputy chief of staff at the time, Rebecca Wright, told one of the women to pick up, quote, "a bottle or two," unquote, of wine or champagne. Lori wants to do a toast when this meeting is over, Ms. Wright said. Okay, so that's a good excuse for having some wine or champagne around. But do they sell it by the bottle or just by the glass? Oh, then she might have said, I need 15 glasses of it for a toast. All right, well, whatever. I certainly not the most important story in the world. Just one, the drinking is the least important of these stories. The more important is her roofie prescribing anesthesiologist husband who's having an affair with somebody, texting all of her young staffers, getting his ass banned from the labor department building, and she can't reverse it. Like, that's really something. I mean, that's got to be a situation where everybody says, if you let him back in the building, we all quit. That's just it. Forget it. I got to know what's happening there. And then with Dad, wow, that whole thing is pretty amazing. Oh, the thing I wanted to bring up was I mentioned, I just figured she was out there living her best life. That is, if she's expensing it to the government, like, I see Josh Wines at the supermarket all the time. I don't think there's anything fancy about it. I just thought maybe she would be expensing more expensive stuff. But she's got simple tastes, which I guess we should be happy about. But speaking of living her best life, so when I recorded the Kash Patel story, that was, for me, yesterday. When I recorded it, so that's Friday afternoon, when I had read the story and I mentioned it, and I said, maybe I thought Kash Patel, two possibilities. One, that he's just realizing he's way in over his head and he just is hiding from it by drinking. The other could be that it was always his plan to be, he was an idiot to begin with. He was barely qualified for the jobs he held. Then he became a wild-ass conspiracy theorist podcaster selling weird merchandise all over the place. And that maybe when he snagged this job, I said on the air, well, maybe he's just living his best life, drinking and flying all over the country and going to UFC fights and visiting his girlfriend every weekend. And then by late Friday evening, we got to the hotel in, where were we? What was the name of that? Medora. We were outside of Teddy Roosevelt National Park, South Unit, Medora. Yes. I'm like, it's like the mother-in-law from Bewitched. What was that again? Endora, right. Not where the Ewoks live. That was Endor. But anyway, so we're watching hotel TV. Oh, I should tell you about this hotel.
We're watching that just for the light effect.
That's right. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, there's Travelog for you. I don't know. I might as well just continue this and do this now. I don't know what this is going to do to editing this show together. But we stayed at this hotel and we turned on the TV. We haven't turned on the TV, I don't think, at all so far. We just have too much to do. And we are arriving at hotels late and I'm editing the show and yada, yada, just as well. Anyway, we turned on the TV mostly because we got to this hotel that is under renovation. And I don't know, I'll be like Trump. Trump would say, should I tell you the name of the hotel? I'm not going to tell you the name. They're begging me not to tell you the name of the hotel. They were fine, but it was major renovations. Half the rooms were gutted. And, completely gutted. There were no doors. So I could see, that's how I could see that they were gutted. Anyway, looks like they're making them over again. Very nice. But even the rooms that are quote unquote done aren't really done. And we were in one of them. By the way, we were in room number 132. So we go down the hallway and, it says rooms, this number to that number. So 101 to 116 this way. Oh, whatever. Anyway, we went there. I guess we just sort of looked at the doors and
right in front of us, 113.
Yeah. But so we had to choose which direction. I just don't know why we chose that. Anyway, the numbers were going up. And so we were walking down. And by the way, the numbers are taped to the doors. They haven't affixed the numbers yet. Anyway, so we're walking down and the numbers are climbing higher and higher and higher and higher. And we finally are getting to the end of the hallway and we hit 131. There is no 132.
And we have walked the length of the hallway. Now we got to walk all the way back and then all the way to the lobby and tell the front desk, you're missing room 132. Where is it? Oh, it's the other direction. Why? We're not sure. So we walk all the way back. At the point where we choose the directions, it's like 113. And then it goes 115 and 115, 16, 17, and so on. And then stops at like 117, 118. 132 comes next. No one knows why. They could always change it and move the room, the tape. Maybe that's why they're doing it. And while they're working on one, they just move the room number over to a room that's ready. I don't know. Anyway, this one wasn't ready because we went in and turn on the lights. And we say, somebody turn on the lights. There is one lamp. There's two end tables on either side of the bed. One of them has a lamp. One of them has nothing. And I mean, when I say one has a lamp, it's not the lamp and the clock it's a lamp. That's it.
Dimmest bulb ever.
Yes, and that's not. We're not talking about any of the people involved in the story. This, dim bulb. We took the lampshade off the lamp in the hopes of getting more light. We were looking around. There's the bathroom has light, but there's nothing. And so we turned on the TV just to have light. By the way, I went to the front desk and said, "Is there another room maybe that we could take a lamp out of?" Nope. Most of the fixtures are just not here yet. Like, I don't know why you rented us this room, but
even if there was another lamp, where were you going to plug it in?
Right. Oh, right. The outlets were missing. They hadn't cut outlets out. They must have just drywalled the thing in and put the treatments on the wall. And all right. Anyway, it was really something. So they had some outlets in there, but not enough. It was very dark. We turned on various. I forgot.
Flashlight on top of that.
All right, that's true too. Yeah, we had to work by flashlight. It was really dark, and so we watched TV just for the light. First, we watched a movie on what channel? TNT, maybe? I don't know.
It was T something.
Yeah, I don't know. And I think this may be.
I think it was sci-fi.
Yes, I think so. This may have been a Trump pal production, and I believe the movie was called The Hunt.
Yes.
And it's the basic premise of it, I guess, is I couldn't tell whether this would be produced by a Trump person or produced ironically by a more liberal person, which is actually the plot of the movie. In which, I don't know, a bunch of, I guess, conservative people, we came in the middle, are sort of like kidnapped and dumped in this remote area. They don't know where they are, and they're being hunted. And one guy at the beginning appears to know what's going on. He says, "I've read about this on the internet." And, he's basically a QAnon lunatic and saying, these liberal elites, these liberal global elites, they kidnap us and they hunt us for sport. And everyone thinks he's crazy, but they can't figure out what else is going on. Anyway, I guess eventually it turns out they realize they are being hunted for sport, and they are being hunted for sport by liberal elites of some kind. But then the liberal elites are so cartoonish and ridiculous. It seems that this was a like a Trump pal production. The liberal elites were, accusing each other of cultural appropriation,
but they were hunting them because they were originally accused of hunting them when they weren't.
Right.
And then they said, "Well, screw you. If you think we're hunting you, now we're gonna."
Yeah. So that it was insane.
It was nuts.
Anyway, we were watching it for the lights, essentially. But then, I don't know, we kind of got half interested in it. But this wasn't why I wanted to tell you the story. It was because what came on next, I switched channels later on, and I turned on MSNBC, or I flipped by and I saw it. And I said, maybe this will be an easy way to get some news. I've been falling behind. And it was a panel discussion, because it's MSNBC. Whose show was it? Stephanie Rule, maybe?
I don't even remember. But they were discussing the Kash Patel story. And to bring it back around to all of that, I was listening to her say that she thought, somebody else saying, I think maybe the problem is that Kash Patel is in over his head. He's such a conspiracy nut, and he was such a weirdo podcaster, and now he realizes he's totally unqualified for this job, and everybody's watching him do it, and he's going to be held accountable for all of this. And he began to drink, or continued to drink to excess. As a result of that anxiety, and the host, if I have it right, says, I just thought Kash Patel might just be living his best life, living it up and flying around the country. And I was laughing about that because, of course, it was exactly what I had said. And it was as if she had been listening to the podcast, but I know, one, she's probably not, and two, we haven't even released this yet. So now we have a little debate about whether or not we can use that segment, but I think it's fine. No one's going to accuse anybody of any plagiarism in this, except I might get a note from Google Maps for copyright infringement for broadcasting their directions to Bozeman, Montana, which is where we are arriving now after a day in the Teddy Roosevelt National Forest out in Moderna, Maui, whatever the name is. It was a great place. We saw a little bit of everything, some wild horses, a coyote that we thought was a wolf, and it was a skinny wolf or a beefy coyote, and it turns out there's plenty to eat for the coyotes there. Except too much commentary from the directions lady. But anyway, also, many of you in the northern tier may have seen that there was some aurora borealis activity for us on Friday night. And as we are far enough north that it was snowing again and freezing cold, we decided what better idea at 1 a.m. than going back out in the freezing cold into the dark of Chimney Park, right at the entrance to the Teddy Roosevelt National Park, where I finally got to see some aurora borealis activity, something we've been chasing for a long time. Granted, it will be a lot better way, way, way up north where you really get the dancing lights, but we were able to even snag a picture or two. Some of you may have seen it on Blue Sky, which at the time was Green Sky. So fantastic. And another great day on the road. We are burning through gas like nobody's business. Thank God the war is over and all of the prices are coming down. It's about $3.60 to $3.80 a gallon wherever we've been. We are filling up twice a day. I mean, between the heavy car and the heavy headwinds wherever we go. And, of course, the speed limit out here, right? No, not going 90, going the speed limit, which is 80. And it's really, it's burning a hole in the pocketbook. But what can you do? We decided to take a car trip with historic high prices in gas. It'll be worse on the West Coast, but we're making up for it by making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches at the breakfast bars in every one of these cheapy hotels. And they owed us at this last one.
From netrootsradio.com, you have been listening to Kagro in the Morning with David Waldman.
All right, everybody, that'll wrap it up for today. We managed to stretch it out to almost an hour and a half with all the blabbing about the travel. I hope you are enjoying it as much as we are enjoying talking about it with you. We'll try and get more news in edgewise, perhaps, as things go forward. But thanks for listening. We'll see you again tomorrow.